My husband's coworker slowly tried to edge me out of my own marriage, acting like his second wife, manipulating our routines, and gaslighting me until I questioned my own reality. Everyone said I was being dramatic, until I quietly gathered the evidence, connected every thread, and lit their little house of lies on fire in the most devastating way possible. By the time the truth came out, no one was laughing, and she learned exactly why I'm not the woman to underestimate. When I went to my husband's work party, something about his colleague Catherine caught my eye. I knew she'd recently divorced, but she seemed way too at ease with him, finishing his sentences, laughing extra loud at his jokes, and finding any excuse to touch his arm. It wasn't casual. There was an intimate intention behind it. At one point, I saw her flash me a quick smile the moment Stephen turned away, like she knew something I didn't. On the ride home, I tried to bring it up calmly, without accusations. Stephen just chuckled. "That's how Catherine is. She really needs people right now," he said. Not wanting to seem jealous, I let it drop, but the knot in my stomach stayed. Over the next few weeks, Stephen's late nights at the office became routine. He mentioned Catherine constantly, quoting her as if her offhand remarks were life-changing. He even picked up new music and started talking about hiking, activities he used to hate. At first I brushed it off, but it began to feel wrong. One afternoon, I called him at lunch and Catherine answered. She sounded so nonchalant, saying he was in a meeting and had left his phone. Later, Stephen told me the same thing, but it still niggled at me. Then the texts started, during our dinners, late at night. "Weekends, always work-related," she said. On our daughter Emma's birthday dinner, Stephen abruptly stood up because Catherine claimed something urgent had come up. Emma was halfway through blowing out her candles when he slipped away. That night, while he was in the shower, I did something I'd never done. I checked his phone. There were hundreds of messages. Some were work stuff, but many weren't. She sent jokes, playlists, and heart-on-her-sleeve confessions. When I confronted Stephen, trembling as I read a message aloud, he exploded. "You've violated my privacy," he snapped. "There's nothing going on, you're just paranoid." From then on, Catherine started weaving herself deeper into our lives. She'd send Stephen parenting articles, show up at restaurants we were dining in, and suggest family events that he suddenly insisted we attend. Each time I mentioned it, he'd accuse me of being controlling. Then Emma came home with a new stuffed animal. "Daddy's friend from work gave it to me," she chirped. My blood ran cold. I'd had a job interview that day and told Stephen I couldn't pick her up. I never agreed to Catherine stepping in. When I pressed him, he admitted it was a one-time thing and called me overreacting. My best friend suggested I was imagining things. I started doubting myself. Finally, I saw a therapist who listened and believed me. With her support, I began jotting everything down, screenshots, dates, the times Catherine pulled Stephen away. It all came to a head at Emma's preschool recital. Catherine lied about a family emergency to lure Stephen out of the audience. Emma scanned the crowd for her dad while I sat alone, heartbroken. Then came the company gala where spouses were invited. Hiding behind a partition, I overheard Catherine tell a coworker he'd be better off without his clingy wife. "I'm just biding my time." I stepped out. She met my gaze and said, "He'll never believe you. You're just the paranoid wife. I'm the one who gets him." That night, I laid everything out for Stephen, texts, notes, Catherine's own words. He called me crazy, obsessed, and accused me of stalking Catherine before storming out to a bar. I cried myself to sleep, surrounded by eerie silence. The next morning, an unknown number texted. I heard about Emma's recital mix-up. "So sorry. Dinner this weekend to make it up." I showed Stephen. He shrugged, convinced she was simply apologetic. A few days later, at another formal company dinner, I nearly stayed home. My therapist encouraged me to watch them in public, so I wore my favorite black dress and went. Catherine kept drawing Stephen into side conversations, leaving me stranded. In a quiet corner, I overheard her telling someone how supportive Stephen was during her divorce, how rare someone like him was, and how his wife never backed his career. I revealed myself. She gave me that same cold smile and pretended our encounter was innocent. Driving home, I begged Stephen to believe me. He accused me of eavesdropping and said maybe I had the problem. He dropped me off and headed to a bar. Surrounded by our family photos, I realized he wasn't just ignoring Catherine's advances, he was encouraging them. The next morning, determined to take action, I made breakfast for Emma and called my friend Taylor. This time she listened and believed me. She suggested I talk to other coworkers. I found Richard's number in Stephen's contacts and nervously reached out. After I told him everything, he admitted Catherine had been talking up our marriage problems at work, even keeping a photo of Stephen on her desk. That's when it hit me. She wasn't just after my husband's affection. She was trying to destroy my reputation. It was more calculated than I'd imagined. I decided to dig deeper. I knew it felt wrong, but I needed to understand exactly what I was up against. While Stephen was in the shower, I slipped into his office and opened his email. Dozens of messages from Catherine flooded the inbox, many with photo attachments showing them side by side at work events, always too close. There were links to apartments for rent. Was she scouting a place for him? For them? One email even included family lawyer referrals, the subject line reading, "Just in case you need this someday, I've taken screenshots of everything." My hands shook as I forwarded the most incriminating messages to my own account. I needed proof, not just for Stephen's sake, but in case things spiraled. I didn't know what worse looked like yet, but I needed to be ready. When Stephen finally came downstairs, I forced a calm smile. We had promised Emma a trip to the park, and I refused to let another fight spoil her day. As we were grabbing our jackets, his phone buzzed. Catherine again. He answered and stepped into the hallway. I caught bits about a Sunday project meeting. He returned saying he had to go into the office for a few hours instead. Emma's face crumpled. "But Daddy, you promised the park," she pleaded. He knelt to her level and promised next weekend. Before walking out, I asked flatly if he was meeting Catherine. He paused just long enough, then denied it. After he left, I took Emma to the swings alone and called my mom. I hadn't told her anything yet, partly out of shame, partly to protect her from worry, but I needed someone firmly in my corner. I spilled everything. She listened without interrupting, which is unusual for her. When I finished, she was silent for a moment before saying, "Honey, this woman is dangerous, not physically, but emotionally. She's trying to take your life, and Stephen's letting it happen. What should you do?" I felt like a little girl again. "You fight," my mom said. "Not with Stephen, that's what she wants, but for your marriage and your family. And prepare for the worst. Get your ducks in a row." That night, I started assembling a safety net. I opened a separate bank account and transferred enough from our joint savings to cover emergencies. I gathered essential documents, birth certificates, our marriage license, financial statements, and emailed scanned copies to a private account. I wasn't planning to leave, but I needed security. The next morning, I called my therapist in a panic. After updating her since our last appointment, she looked alarmed. "This has escalated," she said. "Catherine isn't just interested in your husband. She's trying to take your life, too. She's manipulating Stephen in textbook emotional abuse tactics, and he's blind to it." "How do I make him see?" I asked. "You might not," she answered gently. "Some people have to hit rock bottom. You can't force him, but you can set boundaries to protect yourself and Emma." I took her advice and shifted strategies. Instead of accusing Stephen of an affair, I focused on rebuilding us. I suggested couples counseling as a way to improve communication, not as a response to Catherine. He balked at first, but I framed it as supporting his career stress. Eventually, he agreed. Our first session was tense. When the counselor asked what brought us in, I said I felt we were drifting, that work pressures were overtaking family life. I omitted Catherine's name. Stephen sighed with relief and opened up about career expectations I apparently didn't understand. Week after week, I hoped he'd connect the dots himself, but Catherine's influence only grew. She began sending Emma books, toys, even clothes, each with a note saying, "From your dad's special friend at work." Every gift made my skin crawl. Then one evening, Stephen announced, "The company is sending Catherine and me to a conference in Chicago next month. It's a big opportunity. We'll represent the whole department." My heart dropped. 3 days alone with her in another city. He continued, "Actually, Catherine suggested you might come along, make it a family trip." He said it so casually that for a split second I wondered if she genuinely wanted to include me. Then I realized her game. If I refused, I'd look petty. If I went, she'd isolate him. "That sounds nice," I said, voice steady. "Let me check my calendar." I had no intention of going. I needed time to think. At around 2 a.m., I crept downstairs and found his laptop open on the kitchen counter. I hesitated, then checked his browser history. He'd searched luxury Chicago hotels, spa packages, romantic restaurants, nothing family-friendly. There were queries for date spots and skyline views. My stomach churned. I snapped photos of every damning detail. Just as I was closing the laptop, a new email notification popped up from Catherine. Subject line, "Can't wait for Chicago." Inside, she wrote that she'd booked a room connecting to his, as discussed, and not to worry about the family trip. Your wife will never agree anyway. Something in me broke. I tried to stay calm, to give Stephen the benefit of the doubt, but this was irrefutable. They were planning behind my back, confident I'd react just as they expected. And I decided then to do the opposite. The next morning, I surprised Steven. I'd love to go to Chicago. Emma would adore the aquarium. I told him I'd already requested the time off. He looked stunned. He stammered about company policy and expenses. I smiled and offered to cover my own costs. Over the next week, he stayed glued to his phone while I played hostess, special dinners, date night suggestions. It was exhausting, but I needed time. Simultaneously, I reached out cautiously to Steven's coworkers. One by one they balked, until Jennifer agreed to meet. Over coffee she confessed, Catherine's been weird around Steven since she arrived, talking about some special connection they share. Mostly we brushed it off, but it's gotten more intense. He's encouraged it, office doors closed, daily lunches together. She makes sure everyone sees how close they are. I asked about the Chicago trip. She winced. It's not a department thing. It's just those two. Catherine convinced our boss it was a great idea and no one else was even considered. That evening, I found a package on our porch addressed to Emma, a child-sized Bulls jersey and a note. Can't wait for our special trip. Love, Catherine. The presumption of it, calling it our trip, infuriated me. I didn't show it to Emma. It joined my evidence collection. Later, I confronted Steven. I found the jersey, I said calmly. His face drained. She's just being nice. She knows I miss Emma when I travel. Then why call it our special trip when she's not family? Isn't that a boundary crossed? I asked. He snapped that I was overreacting, but I saw doubt flicker in his eyes. The next day, Richard, another coworker, called, sounding uneasy. I thought you should know Catherine's telling people you bailed on the Chicago trip, saying you're too controlling to let Steven go but too insecure to join him. She's spinning this like your marriage is on the rocks. And that, I realized, was precisely what she wanted. I thanked him for the heads up, so that was her plan. She'd already been scripting me as the problem. She hadn't counted on me actually agreeing to the trip, and it threw a wrench in her scheme. That evening, Steven got home late again, looking frazzled. We need to talk about Chicago, he said. The company will only cover one room. With Emma coming, it might get complicated. Maybe you two shouldn't come. Oh, that's no problem, I chirped. I already booked a separate room for Emma and me right next to yours. The hotel confirmed it this morning. It was a total lie. I hadn't booked a thing, but I wanted to watch his face. He went pale. You didn't have to do that. I could have handled it. I'm sure you could have, I said, but this way Emma and I have our own space. You can focus on work stuff with Catherine during the day, and we'll have family time in the evenings. It's perfect. He mumbled something about checking with the conference organizers and retreated to his office. I knew he was calling Catherine. Our carefully laid plans were unraveling, and they needed to regroup. Over the next few days, Steven grew distant, always glued to his phone. I kept up my campaign of sunny enthusiasm, chatting with Emma about the fun we'd have in Chicago, making sure Steven overheard. I could see it made him nervous, which only confirmed my suspicions about his and Catherine's scheme. About a week before we left, I decided to press my advantage. I asked Steven to meet me for lunch near his office. He seemed surprised, but agreed. I got dressed up, did my hair the way he always liked, and met him at a little bistro a few blocks away. As we finished our meal, I spotted Catherine walking in. Her eyes went wide, shock quickly masked by a fake smile. She floated over. What a coincidence. I was just grabbing a quick bite. Mind if I join you? Before Steven could answer, I smiled and said, Actually, Catherine, Steven and I were talking about some private family matters. But I've been meaning to chat with you. Could we grab coffee later this week, just the two of us? There are a few things about Chicago I'd love to go over. Her face fell. She fumbled something about being busy, but might find time, then slid off to another table, shooting us furtive glances. Steven squirmed. What was that about? He whispered. Well, I said brightly, since we're all headed to Chicago together, I thought it'd be good to clear the air, make sure we're on the same page about the schedule, and, boundaries. I emphasized the last word. Boundaries, he echoed, confused. Yeah, I said, still smiling. Like, it's not appropriate for her to send gifts to Emma without checking with me. Or telling her coworkers I've backed out of the trip when I haven't. Basic respect. He went pale. She told people I backed out? I nodded. Richard mentioned it. Thought you'd want to know what she's saying about us. I reached across the table and took his hand. Steven, I love you. I want our marriage to work, but Catherine's behavior has gone too far. She's not just being friendly. She's trying to come between us. For once, he didn't rush to defend her. He looked uneasy, as if he might actually believe me. I'll talk to her, he said softly. About the gifts and the rumors. That's not okay. It wasn't everything, but it was something, a tiny acknowledgement that something was off. As we left, I caught Catherine's eyes on us. I gave her a small wave, making it clear Stephen and I were united, and her tactics weren't working. That night, Stephen was quiet. He played with Emma, helped with her bath, read her extra stories like he was proving something, to me or to himself. After Emma was asleep, he sat next to me on the couch. I talked to Catherine, he said, about the gifts and the rumors. She got really upset, cried, actually. Said I was misunderstanding. Poor thing. I chose my words carefully. People often get defensive when you call them out on their behavior, especially if they know they've crossed lines. The tears might be manipulation, Stephen. It's a way to make you feel guilty for setting boundaries. He was quiet for a long moment. Finally, I don't know. Everything's so complicated now. Then he really looked at me, for the first time in weeks. I don't want to lose you. I don't want to hurt Emma. So don't, I said simply. Choose us, your family. He nodded slowly. About the Chicago trip, maybe it's not a good idea right now. Maybe I should tell work I can't go. Or maybe I should still go, just to show Catherine and myself that we're a team, that our marriage is worth fighting for. He sounded tentative, conflicted between Catherine's fantasy and the reality of our life. But it was progress. For the first time in months, I felt like maybe I could save my marriage. The next morning, I woke to a string of missed calls from Richard. When I called back, he was upset. Catherine had been telling everyone at the office that Stephen and I were splitting, that they were planning a new life together after Chicago. She even showed coworkers some proof texts. My heart sank. What kind of texts? I asked. I haven't seen them myself, Richard admitted, but Jennifer did, said they were pretty explicit about him wanting out and planning with Catherine. I thanked him and hung up, mind racing. Had Stephen lied to me last night? Was his newfound support just another manipulation? I needed to see those texts. That night, when he walked in from work, I was waiting in the living room. Emma was asleep upstairs. I had my phone out. We need to talk, I said. He froze. What now? Richard called today. Catherine's telling people you're leaving me after Chicago, starting a new life with her. Texts are involved. He went pale, halfway through taking off his jacket. That's ridiculous. Really? Because apparently she's showing people messages that back up her story. I held out my hand. Show me your phone. He hesitated, and in that moment, I knew. It's private, he muttered. Not anymore, I said. Not when your coworker is using your messages to destroy our marriage. Reluctantly, he handed it over. I opened his conversation with Catherine, and my stomach dropped. Dozens of messages. How unhappy he was with me, how controlling I was, how he couldn't wait to start fresh. Plans for the trip as their chance to see if they worked outside the office. These aren't what they look like, he blurted. She was going through a rough divorce. I was just trying to make her feel better. I stared at him, voice shaking. By telling her you'd leave your wife? By planning a romantic escape disguised as business. I never meant any of it, he said. It was just talk, fantasy stuff. I was never actually going to leave you. I scrolled back and found the worst. A message from 3 weeks ago, booked the hotel-connected rooms like you suggested. Can't wait to wake up next to you. He collapsed into his hands. I don't know what I was thinking. She made it seem so simple. Like you and I were already done. Were we? I whispered, tears in my eyes. Because I've been here every day, raising our daughter, loving you, while you planned to abandon us for someone trying to take my place. I wasn't thinking straight, he sobbed. She twisted everything. Made me think you were at fault for all my unhappiness. She exploited every little frustration. That's manipulation, Stephen. I stood, pacing with the anger rushing through me. She's been manipulating you, and you've let her. He looked up, ashamed. After last night, I started questioning everything, how she always had a crisis when we had family plans, how she'd subtly put you down. I was blind. You chose to be blind, I snapped. I told you for months something was wrong. You called me crazy, made me doubt myself. He couldn't meet my eyes. I know. I'm so sorry. Sorry isn't enough, I said. You need to fix this. How? He asked, genuinely lost. Text Catherine right now, I said, and tell her the Chicago trip is off. Tell her you're not leaving your family, that whatever she thought was happening is over. He nodded, reached for his phone, and as he typed, I knew this was the moment it all changed. It was clear, no ambiguity, no mixed signals. He showed me the text before sending it. Catherine, I'm not going to Chicago. I'm not leaving my family. What happened between us was a mistake, and it's over. Please only contact me for essential work matters. After he hit send, I let out a long breath. Tomorrow morning, you're emailing your boss to explain that you can't go to Chicago for personal reasons. What about the presentation? He asked, worried. Not my problem, I said firmly. You created this mess by putting Catherine ahead of your job. Figure it out. His phone buzzed almost immediately. It was Catherine. Asterisk, you don't mean that. You're making me say this. Call me when you can talk privately. Asterisk, she doesn't give up easily, I warned. Be absolutely clear. He typed back, I do mean it. This is my decision. Do not call or text me again except for essential work matters. He sent it, then met my eyes. What will you tell HR tomorrow about her behavior? The rumors she's spreading about our marriage, how she schemed to get me to Chicago, everything. He looked panicked. That could get her fired. Again, not my problem, I said. She's creating a hostile work environment and using company resources to chase a married coworker. HR needs to know. His phone buzzed with more texts from Catherine. I took the phone, turned it off. She can wait until tomorrow. We're not done talking. We stayed up most of the night. Finally, Stephen opened up about how Catherine had wormed her way into his confidence, always there when he was frustrated with work or home life, always validating him, telling him he deserved better than me. How she made him feel understood in ways he didn't feel at home. That's how manipulators work, I said. They find your cracks and widen them. Instead of helping you communicate with me, she painted me as the enemy. I couldn't see it until now, he admitted. By morning, we had a plan. Stephen would go to HR first thing and request a transfer to get away from Catherine. He'd also commit to serious marriage counseling, not the surface-level sessions we'd been in, but actual, intensive work. I felt exhausted but clear-headed. I'm not promising I can forgive you, I said. You betrayed my trust in a fundamental way. But I'm willing to try for Emma's sake and for everything we had before Catherine appeared. He nodded, equally worn out. That's more than I deserve. The next day was chaos. Stephen went straight to HR. They took his reports seriously, especially once he showed them the texts of Catherine spreading rumors about our marriage. Apparently, he wasn't the first to complain about her stirring up drama at work. While he dealt with HR, I took Emma to preschool, then rushed to an emergency session with my therapist. I needed help sorting through whether I could really move forward, or if the damage was too deep. Trust can be rebuilt, my therapist reminded me, but it takes time and consistent effort from both of you. Stephen has to be fully transparent. Back home, my phone showed 3 missed calls from an unknown number. I suspected Catherine. I ignored them and texted my friend Taylor to fill her in. She offered to come over, but I asked for time alone. Around noon, Stephen called. HR just met with Catherine, he said, sounding drained. She denied everything at first, then tried to claim I pursued her. But they have the texts and complaints from other coworkers. What's going to happen? I asked. She's on administrative leave during the investigation, and my department transfer is approved effective immediately. I felt some weight lift off my shoulders. At least the work situation is being handled. How are you holding up? He was quiet for a moment. Ashamed. Stupid. I almost threw away everything that matters for someone who never cared about me, just wanted to win some game I didn't even know I was playing. That evening, I got another call from the unknown number. This time I answered. It was Catherine. You think you've won, don't you? She sneered, turning Stephen against me, getting me suspended. This isn't a game, Catherine, I replied calmly. Stephen is my husband. Emma is our daughter. You tried to break up our family and it didn't work. He doesn't love you. He was going to leave you, Catherine spat. He told me how boring you are, how your marriage was just going through the motions. He chose his family, I said firmly. Whatever fantasy you built up in your head wasn't real. This isn't over, she threatened. Actually, it is, I said without hesitation. Stephen reported your behavior to HR, and he's transferred departments. If you contact us outside of necessary work communication again, we'll file for a restraining order. Find someone else to obsess over, Catherine. We're done. I hung up and blocked her number. Then I sat down and cried, not because I was sad, but because it was finally over. The anxiety, the gaslighting, the feeling of my life being stolen. It was done. Later that evening, Stephen came home early with flowers. It felt touching and inadequate given everything, but his genuine remorse meant more than any gift. I talked to my parents, he said as we sat at the kitchen table. I told them everything. My dad read him the riot act, my mom cried. They're coming to visit next weekend to help, he added. I was surprised he involved his parents, but seeing him expose his mistakes to them showed he was serious about making amends. Over the next few weeks, we started rebuilding. Stephen was fully transparent. His phone was always accessible. He texted when leaving work, and he came straight home every day. We began intensive couples therapy twice a week. It was painful work, dredging up not just the Catherine situation, but the underlying issues that made our marriage vulnerable in the first place. Eventually, Catherine resigned rather than face termination. Richard, the HR rep, told Stephen she took a job out of state. The relief of knowing she was physically far away was immense. Emma remained blissfully unaware of most of it. She asked about Catherine once, wondering why Daddy's friend didn't come around anymore. Stephen told her she moved away for a new job, and Emma forgot about her within days. 3 months after it all exploded, Stephen and I sat together on our back porch after Emma had gone to bed. We'd just finished a therapy session about rebuilding trust. I never thought we'd get here, Stephen admitted. There were days I was sure you'd leave me, days I thought I deserved to lose everything, I said. But then I'd look at Emma, at the life we built, and I knew it was worth the fight. Not just for her, but for us. He took my hand. I'm still sorry. I probably will be for the rest of my life. You don't have to be sorry forever, I told him. I just need you to choose us every day, like I choose you. We aren't fully healed. Trust doesn't mend overnight, and sometimes the memory of those texts still stings, but we're moving forward with our eyes wide open. Just the other day, I ran into Jennifer at the grocery store. She seemed shocked to see me looking so normal. We all thought your marriage was over, she said. Catherine underestimated us, I replied. She thought wanting my life was enough to replace me. But real relationships aren't about wanting. They're about building, working, and choosing each other even when it's hard. Driving home, I realized how far we'd come. The woman who tried to erase me from my own life failed. Stephen saw through her manipulation, and I discovered a strength I never knew I had. Our marriage may never be perfect, but it's ours, messy, complicated, and real, and no one can take that away unless we let them.